Even if some of you may not agree, HoYoverse did an excellent job with the Flame Chasers. I didn't think that they'll make us care about 13 new characters in such a short time. Among the 13, Elysia quickly rose to become one of the most beloved characters in the eyes of the community. That is why, today, we're going to talk and explain her importance in the story. So buckle up, these holidays are going to be pink. When it comes to the inspiration behind her character, Elysia is a mixed bag with so many ideas. From mythical creatures, different gods, and concepts from multiple religions, there are so many things that I can make an entire 30-minute video only on that. At a first glance, the traits that are the easiest to notice are her elf ears. They are the result of her metamorph surgery after fusing with the Vipralopa class Honkai beast Mahesvara. Vipralopa class Honkai beasts, unlike other types which are based on real animals, seem to be based around mythical creatures. All the flame chasers that are fused with them seem to have elf-like ears and strange features that are not seen in common animals. We don't really know much about Mahesvara, only that nobody except Elysia survived after fusing with its genes. I have seen some people theorize that its form is somehow similar with Elysia's manta ray from her Herrscher of origin, but I'm not sure. Also, Elysia did become a mantis and underwent the metamorph surgery. Many seem to think that because she was a Herrscher, she lied and used her powers to alter the memories of the people around her. This is a misconception that is probably from this line of dialogue belonging to Dr. May in one of Kevin's files from the Elysian Realm. I see why people are confused, but we see clearly that in chapter 29, she did not have elf ears prior to her supposed surgery. And from what the game implies, it's very likely that she didn't even know that she was a Herrscher at that time. If we dig deeper into the folklore of many Germanic and North European countries, elves seem to have been thought as beings with magical powers that loved hindering people. In other words, they were a bunch of trolls, and they loved pulling pranks for the sake of their own amusement. Very much in tune with a mischievous pink lady, if you ask me. Elves are also most often depicted as archers. Albeit this is mostly because of Tolkien, who is responsible for the modern version of elves. Her bow could also be associated with Cupid, who often appeared as a winged infant carrying a bow and a quiver of arrows, whose wounds inspired love in every victim. Of course, Ellie isn't an oversized fetus, but Cupid is the god of desire and attraction, all symbolized within Elysia's pink and heart-shaped elements. But Cupid is not her only reference from Greek mythology. Her name is a reference to the Elysian Plains, also known as Elysium. Elysian Plains is a concept of afterlife in some Greek religious and philosophical sects and cults. Basically, it's the Greek version of paradise that every Greek hero tried to seek. This concept is also shown in her early history, when, after reading a fairy tale as a child about a hero set on a journey to find paradise, Elysia was inspired to set out on her own. There is a lot more to talk about all the inspiration that HoYo took for this character, but I don't want to make this video an hour long. And for those of you thinking, Homu, you're not gonna mention Jesus? Please have some patience, we'll get there. Elysia was found by a gardener under the tallest ash outside of Vladivostok, a small town in Russia. The gardener brought her back to the town and sent her to the church's orphanage. There, she would end up growing up under the loving care of a nun that she called Mama Celia. Later, she would choose her own name, Elysia, which symbolizes the paradise that the hero and his companions were searching for in the previously mentioned fairy tale. Unfortunately, her happy life at the orphanage wouldn't last long. An early moth would regularly show up in the town searching for something. Even though she didn't exactly knew what is happening, little Elysia could sense that she was the one they were searching for. She didn't want to worry the people from the town, so she decided to leave and go out on a journey. During her journey, Elysia meets all kinds of people and learns about humans, both the good and the bad parts. No matter who it was, Elysia saw beauty and value inside everybody, even inside those that did bad things. It was also during this journey that she first met some of the people that would later become her friends and her colleagues. After a few years, around the second eruption of the previous era, Elysia joined Moth. One night, during the annual prom, she met a silver-haired boy that would later become her friend and fellow flame chaser. After the tragedy of binding, only 13 Mantis soldiers were left. Wanting to unite them under a single name and give them a purpose, Elysia wished to form the 13 Flame Chasers, a last bastion of heroes in the fight against the Honkai. Unfortunately, the moth never accepted her proposal because they considered the majority of them unfit to become heroes. Refusing to compromise, Elysia created the group anyway. During this time, at Elysia's suggestion, the Flame Chaser created the Elysian Realm, a virtual database where they would upload their consciousness in form of a simulation to tell their stories to the future generation of heroes that would pick up the mantle after them. In her final moments, Elysia said the following: "Please subscribe to HoMoLab's channel and give the video a thumbs up for more Honkai content." So, what are you waiting for? You don't want to disappoint Elysia, right? Besides her bow, Elysia used to wield multiple divine keys. She even was the first owner of the Abyss Flower, but according to Kevin, she relinquished the weapon due to it not being cute enough. So I think it's pretty safe to assume that Elysia would use any weapon as long as it looked cute. Her powers revolve around condensing Honkai energy into a crystal-like material that she controlled. She tells May that the side effects of her Mantis surgery are the fact that she stays beautiful with a smooth skin and never getting fat no matter what she does. It is not known if these abilities have anything to do with the fact that she is a Herrscher or not. Oh, and speaking of her Herrscher powers, let's talk about them. Elysia is the true first Herrscher of the previous era. Because of that, many people like to call her the Herrscher number 0, also known as the Herrscher of Origin. Herrscher of Human is a name she chose for herself as the first Herrscher to ever fight for humanity, but her powers in-game are referred to as the Authority of Origin. The exact nature of her authority remains a bit of a mystery, since it's never explained, but it's heavily implied to have something to do with fate. By returning to the Honkai, she severed the threads of destiny that were binding humanity's fate. During chapter 32, Prometheus remarks that Kiana displays the authority of origin. Later in the same chapter, Dr. May refers to May as a Herrscher of Human. Combining these two statements, it is heavily implied that any Herrscher that kept their humanity is a successor of the authority of origin, since Elysia's powers are what enabled them to do so in the first place. Interestingly enough, it seems that the authority of origin is not a guarantee, as we've seen with Herrschers like Anna. There is a big price to pay for it, with Kiana and May going through immense struggles to keep their humanity and not succumb to the Honkai. In the game, she is referred to as God's daughter. But who's God? Well, I believe that it's the imaginary tree, of course. As we learn from Dr. May in chapter 31 EX, Elysia is an anomaly in the system. She is the result of an accidental symmetry breaking, which is why she is not bound by the Honkai and the pre-established Herrscher cycle. She is a Herrscher that was not supposed to exist. That is why we don't have a Herrscher of origin in the current era, but her authority is still present. That's a complicated topic that will get explained later. Dr. May offers a great analogy here, saying that Elysia's birth is like someone redefining thermodynamics and boiling coffee with ice cubes. Asymmetry breaking is a process from quantum physics, of course, that occurs when there are unknown changes to a system that is set on a predetermined path. The Herrschers should have started with the Herrscher of reason and end with the Herrscher of finality. So the chances for Elysia to exist were very slim, and because she was not part of the system put in place by the authority of finality, her actions basically broke it and gave humanity opportunities that it shouldn't normally had. Editor Homu here. While working on this video, a lot of lore bombs were dropped in chapter 33. If you haven't experienced the chapter for yourself yet, skip to this part. I saw a lot of people confused regarding the authority of origin and how it works. Humanity is trapped in a 50,000 year samsara by the authority of finality. I will go over the exact reasons and nature of finality in another video, but in essence, finality is a power from a higher dimension that wants to end human civilization because of the conflicting natures between the two. All the Herrschers, from the Herrscher of reason to the Herrscher of corruption, are projections of finality. Think of them as parts of a whole that gradually manifest and enforce the finality's will. If they all fail, the Herrscher of finality comes and resets everything. Now, the reason why the Herrscher of origin is special is because it's not part of finality. Origin is another power from the imaginary tree on the same level as the finality, but unlike finality, Origin's Herrscher loved human civilization. That is why the Herrscher of origin doesn't exist in the current era. Her powers do not cycle with the samsara, since it's not part of the finality, and that is why Elysia was able to free the current era Herrschers from finality's control. The events that transpired at Elysia's Final Banquet are never properly explained. I believe that they wanted to be elusive about them to keep a biblical feeling. They mention things vaguely, never giving a proper confirmation or order of events. We can only deduce them from the dialogues and the reenacting that she and May had during chapter 31. So, please note that what I am about to say is my own interpretation based on the in-game dialogue that I have read again and again and again. It is heavily implied that Elysia did not know that she was a Herrscher until late into her moth days. She always had a feeling that she was different, but she never confirmed it for herself until Dr. May done some tests on her. She wanted to sacrifice herself by returning to the Honkai to accomplish two important things. 1. Elysia speculated that she had the power to free humanity from the fate that was controlling it, and second, to unite the remaining flame chasers who were in a pretty rough spot after the 12th Herrscher destroyed the 3 remaining human cities. She wanted to pretend to be an enemy of humanity and challenge the flame chasers by sending them an invitation to come and stop her. Dr. May knew about her plan and went along with it. Ultimately, she hesitated because she didn't want to disappoint her friends. The moth branded her as the 13th Herrscher, which was a false identity that she and Dr. May constructed, and as an enemy of humanity. But none of the 12 remaining flame chasers believed it, and as Elysia says, they all refuse to see Elysia as an enemy. Nonetheless, 4 people showed up in front of her anyway. Eponia, because she could see the strings of fate and knew from the beginning that Elysia was special, vill-v, who was smart enough to figure things out on her own, Eden, who was told the truth by Elysia herself, and Kevin, who was oblivious the whole time but came to support her anyway. It is implied that she and Kevin had a battle, but we do not know for sure how she died. I see a lot of people saying that she let Kevin kill her, and even if that is a possibility, the game never confirms that fact. Maybe they were just playing around like May and Elysia did in chapter 31. The game seemed to imply that she just vanished into thin air, more so than being killed by Kevin. But the point is, we do not know how she died. Fun fact, if you read the early 5.0 files in the Elysian Realm, it is very much implied that initially, HoYoverse had a much darker plan for Elysia, but they changed their minds as the story progressed. I know what you're thinking. What's with all the return to the Honkai? Well, to explain that, we need to talk about how Elysia is Honkai's version of Jesus Christ. In Christianity, there is a concept called the original sin. This holds that humans, through the fact of birth, inherit a tainted nature and the tendency to sinful conduct. This is due to Adam and Eve taking a bite from the fruit of forbidden knowledge and going against the word of God. As punishment, humans were banished from heaven and forced to live on earth. They gained the ability to discern between evil and good, but they lost God's favor in the process. In his boundless love for humans, God decided to send his son on earth to be born, raised and live among humans and ultimately die on a cross to pay the price for the original sin in their place. By sacrificing his life, Jesus earned back the favor of God and opened up the gates of heaven for humanity again. God allowed humans to choose their own destiny. They could live with God in their hearts and return to heaven, or they could continue to defy him and end up in hell. In Christianity, Jesus is a savior who liberated humanity from the tragic fate imposed by the original sin. Elysia is also referred as God's daughter. She was raised and lived as a human, and she harbored a deep love for humanity. Despite being a Herrscher, she gave up her life to free humanity from the destiny imposed by the authority of finality. She is the reason why humanity stands a chance against the Honkai today. Even Project Stigma was made possible due to her help, because it's implied that Mobius learned to hack the Honkai by observing Elysia's sacrifice. If we think of the imaginary tree as a computer, Elysia's powers made it possible to hack into the system and change the data so that humans are no longer bound by Honkai. Jesus' death is a symbol of salvation, and Elysia sacrificing herself is meant to be a parallel of that. There are a ton of other similarities between the two, like how Jesus had 12 apostles, and there are 12 other flame chasers besides Elysia. Also, you can look at the 12 Herrschers and the Herrscher of Finality as the Antichrist, who is said to appear during the apocalypse. I know that her overbearing personality can seem a bit much for many. That's fine, even I am not that much into her character archetype. But I really love the idea behind Elysia's character. She was a selfless girl who sacrificed herself to bet on the future of humanity when humanity itself already gave up upon itself through plans like Project Stigma. Her will was inherited by everybody that chose to believe in humanity and fight for all that's beautiful in the world.